What do you sacrifice?
Calm, kindness, kinship, love. I've given up all chance at inner peace. I made my mind a sunless space. I share my dreams with ghosts. I'm damned for what I do. My anger, my ego, my unwillingness to yield, my eagerness to fight has set me on a path from which there's no escape. I yearn to be a savior against injustice without contemplating the cost, and by the time I look down, there's no longer any ground beneath my feet. What is my sacrifice? I'm condemned to use the tools of my enemy. I burn my decency for someone else's future. I burn my life to make a sunrise that I know I'll never see. Now, the ego that started this fight will never have a mirror, an audience, or the light of gratitude. Everything!
I'm turning away from a truth I wanted not to face. There is a wound that won't heal at the center of the galaxy. There is a darkness and a chill like rust. We let it grow, and now it's here. It's here, and it's not visiting anymore. The Empire is a disease that thrives in darkness. It is never more alive than when we sleep. It's easy for the dead to tend to fight. And maybe it's true. Maybe fighting's useless. Perhaps it's too late, but I'll tell you this. If I could do it again, I'd wake up early and be fighting these bastards from the start. Fight the Empire!
What is it they've sent us?
How?
What?
Andor was a show I had a lot of trouble getting into. I watched the first 3 episodes for season 1 and liked the more mature route they were taking with their storytelling. But as season 1 progressed and they began to introduce more and more characters and really begun interweaving the political side of the Star Wars story, well, they started to lose me a little bit. Essentially, Andor is the type of show that puts a lot of faith in their audience and treats them as intelligently as the writers and creators believes themselves are. But I'm here to let you know that, to no one's surprise, there are varying levels of media literacy out there, even amongst those who consider themselves YouTubers. Now, by the end of season 1, I really appreciated the quality of the show. I thought it was very well put together. They had a very good budget and used it fine. However, season 1 left me feeling the same thing that Game of Thrones season 1 did, in which I could see the potential and quality, but I couldn't quite grasp where the characters or the grand story was actually going to go. Now, with Game of Thrones, I didn't really know much about the books, and it wasn't your most action-heavy show until later seasons. But I think everyone can agree, knowing the world of Westeros and Game of Thrones in general really helps understand the story way better. And I think there's something to say with that in regards to Andor. And while Game of Thrones ended up going on for 4 amazing seasons, we do have Andor, which beneficially only lasted 2. But when I say I ran into the same problem, I think the main problem I mean is the grand scale of the story. See, going into it, I didn't see the necessity of having an entire series based on Cassian Andor. I loved Rogue One and believed that Rogue One was and is the best iteration of a Star Wars movie we have, but that also concludes a lot of the stories we see, especially with characters like Cassian Andor. So going into Andor, I didn't really consider the idea of watching him go through all of this trouble and turmoil just to end up going through the events of Rogue One as something that endearing. And then season 2 came around, and for fans of the channel, you'll know I was working on a lot of different videos covering other series around that time. But during my breaks from editing for hours without sleep, I would go and watch Andor, believing that for some weird reason, when I was too tired to really think that heavily, Andor would be my comfort show. Boy, would mistake that was. See, Andor Season 2, the very first 3 episodes, finally put into perspective where these characters were going and how important they were within the story. See, yes, I knew Cassian had more of a role to play in the future, but all of these side characters we were introduced to, I didn't really see having a story that would be that impactful. That was an assumption on my part, and I obviously regret it because, again, Season 2 proved that all these characters were really well thought out and meticulously planned from the very start. And that, I believe, is where the show finally hooked me. Not in its political tensions, but in its character development. Season 1 really laid the groundwork for these characters as a good introduction, and Season 2 really gave us a reason to root for them and their journeys within this rebellion. And as I walked away from Season 2, I could officially confirm that this was probably the best Star Wars show they officially ever put out there. And that is of course subjective, and not to say it's the best piece of storytelling to ever exist on any medium, but given the Star Wars IP and what we've gotten from it so far, this is a very big step in a quality direction. So then why have I come to the conclusion that I wish I didn't watch Andor? Essentially, as a content creator who covers trending shows or movies, you have two choices. You can either lead into the entitled negative aspect of consuming media and kind of present yourself as someone who is all-knowing and his opinion can do no wrong, and validating so many people's opinions through fear, rage, and passion. Or there's those that try to be a little unbiased and stay a little more optimistic about things. There are pros and cons to presenting yourself each way here, but I think going with the optimistic route, I can assuredly say that sometimes it's tough, especially with some series like The Last of Us. Spoiler alerts if you haven't watched it, but essentially Season 2, just like Season 1, is a mixed bag, with a lot of solid and very high quality moments, mixed with moments that kind of leave you questioning where exactly the narrative would be going, or what creative decision making actually went into this exact sequence. But oh boy, speaking of sequences, the only reason I even brought up The Last of Us was to compare two specific sequences and how one works and one doesn't. Now, without giving too many spoilers away, essentially in The Last of Us, the character of Ellie has reached a point where she's about to go after her target, the person who's been living in her head rent-free, the person who she just needs to take down. She ends up taking a boat and riding off towards an aquarium, but during a stormy weather, she happens to get knocked over. She ends up waking up on an island with perfectly tied back hair, and in a small sequence of events gets kidnapped and hung up, almost gutted in front of a cult-like group. But there's a horn that goes off and the group is pulled away, leaving her alive for whatever reason and going off to take care of whatever just distracted them. It's then that Ellie steps back into her boat and continues her journey back to the aquarium. This little detour did absolutely nothing for the actual story, as she didn't lose any time from the aquarium, there was nothing that was there that she lost out on going in this little side quest, and this little side quest did not change her character or alter the world in any way, shape, or form. Now let's cut to a moment in the Andor series that originally left me equally irritated until I saw this moment in The Last of Us. And that is, of course, Mon Mothma's dance sequence. See, I remember watching this episode, and every time it cut back to her dancing and that obnoxiously pleasant music, I was always taken back. I wanted to get back to the main story and see all the tension that was being built up finally play out, but it felt like every other minute we were cutting back to Mon sad dancing. Now, I do get the narrative importance of this scene, and I think that helps distinguish the difference between The Last of Us and Andor. See, Mon as a character has been built up to the point of the story where she is stuck in this sort of Imperial prison, just like a lot of the people who are on the side of the Imperium are. See, unlike the rebels, Mon in Andor is playing the political game, which means there's only so much control she actually has, coupled with the fact that she has to carry and present herself a very particular way at every given moment. So while the physical threat and dangers may not be just as prevalent in Mon Mothma's case in this entire sequence, it is very telling of where these characters are at. And the consistency in flashing back and forth within this actual moment did leave us to really sit and ponder why they were trying to show us this. Had they left it at just one quick jump to Mon dancing and continued on with the rest of the episode, it wouldn't have been that resonating. Either way, I could talk about this moment for a long period of time, and I'm sure eventually someone will make a video essay on this exact scene. But my main point is that even though this scene was irritating to me, it was only irritating because of how invested I was into the story. Versus The Last of Us, which had an arguably similar scene, just done a lot worse, left the story changed in no way, shape, or form. It honestly felt like it was there to fill up the episode a little bit with some more screen time. reason I really wish I didn't watch Andor is it made it hard to stay optimistic about some of these other popular series that are coming out. Because there is a level of quality that has gone into Andor that even if it isn't your cup of tea, even if you prefer lightsaber battles and Jedi mind tricks, you cannot deny just how amazing the show of Andor really is. But let me know what you guys think. I'll probably wait a little bit to do some videos on Andor, considering YouTube is absolutely flooded with the content right now, but I highly recommend checking some of them out. A lot of people making video essays on the series are putting a lot of work and effort into them, and it's very nice and thought-provoking to listen to what a lot of them have to say. So again, I highly recommend, if you're any fan of storytelling in general, to at least check out some of these video essays. But otherwise, how did you guys feel about Andor? Did it live up to the hype? Did it ruin other shows for you? Either way, let me know down below. And remember, if you're ever sad, just dance your problems away.